Alrighty, so let's do a weekly recap of what happened this week. Overall, very good week. I've had 4 trades only, I think. Was it 4 or 5? I'm not quite sure. Let me just double check. I think it was 5 trades. No, 4 trades. Yeah, 2 wins, 2 losses. Very good trades. I think I could have avoided one, but that's the only. That's about it basically. So let's do a quick market analysis, top-down analysis. So we're bullish on GU, right? Price pulled back to EQ, past EQ, give us the IBOS again, swept that low, right, and then gave us another IBOS. So um, after the bearish IBOS, we just mitigated lower, swept that low, and then pushed higher, giving us an IBOS. So internal is bullish, swing is bullish, looking to play longs, looking for longs, phase A, very straightforward, very clear, direct. So on the internal range, we only had one unmitigated demand, which was this one. Obviously, price could push higher, lower, and mitigate some wicks or whatever, but the only unmitigated demand was that one. Had inducement, so it was very high probability. So throughout the whole week, I was trying to target that basically that demand and see if price will reach there, which it did eventually. So I played all this push to downside, and yeah, so the target was basically to see if price will reach this low target here, and then see any kind of rejection, potentially CHoCH on the daily, or H4 boss, and then look for price to continue higher, or H4 IBOS in this case. So H4, same scenario. Swing is bullish, internal was bearish at that time, so was looking to potentially look for sells from this level, from this supply, which it did, and then overall, the whole range of the daily, we mitigated it, and it was included in one of the demands, the H4 demands, and price just continued to the upside. But for now, my objective was to potentially play the shorts until that demand. So coming into Monday, so Monday. Yeah, Monday we were basically there, right? Price mitigated that H4 supply, mitigated an extreme supply, or an extreme internal M15 supply. So was looking to potentially sell it. At that time we had that as our internal low, that as our internal high, that as our internal low. Mitigated EQ, so was expecting potentially price to, not EQ, the flip, so was it potentially waiting for price to give us the IBOS, which it did eventually. So price pulled back higher, reached that supply and the H4 supply as well, give us an IBOS there, leaving us with with 2 unmitigated. So that would be the internal extreme supply, right? And that would be technically another supply, but once we got that boss, I wasn't convinced with this supply because, well, first, doesn't have any inducement. Yeah, we shifted momentum. It's very rarely that we will push all the way higher to the extreme, but I just didn't like how it was formed. I preferred to see any sort of inducement. Wasn't in this case. I was okay with taking trade from this supply because, well, it had inducement, right? But I wasn't with this one. Basically, just one in the lid didn't. Yeah, you can say that it pushed or it closed. It made us close below that level, but I just didn't like it. Did it give us any entry? Just let me check. Yeah, would be an LC1 there. We would get an LC1 basically. Around that level, I would say. Once we get the mitigation, 2p buffer. Yep, and price will hit TP eventually, but again, it's very risky. So this is not high probability to me. This is not good trading. I would not get into a trade like this, especially when we have another supply that we can easily go to and react from, right? So wasn't a high probability for me. Price just continued bearish. Okay, created some new internal lows, and yeah, this is my trade. So once price basically just created that internal range, the new internal range, my issue is that we didn't have any clear supply, right? So what I had in the chart is something like that, but it was already mitigated, but it was my bad. So what happened is I took a loss there. Um, so we had an LC1, but a problem is the LC1 was from an unmitigated supply. So I took the trade right there. Stop loss was just above the high, and yeah, we just got wicked out, stopped. I mean, it makes sense, right? We didn't have any unmitigated uh, supply. We didn't have any inducement, so price of obviously will get stopped out, right? So that's exactly what happened. Price just swept high. So because we don't have any inducement on that internal high, price swept it, used it as inducement, and then at that moment in time, I was happy to look for a trade if we get CHoCH, which we did eventually, right there. So the internal high is still respected. We had an overall target right there, which was the M15 week low. So I was very happy with taking a trade from that high if we get a CHoCH, which we did. So we got a CHoCH right there. And to be fair, on my live account, because I just needed maybe 2-3% to, I think a 2 point something percent to pass my phase 2. So once we got that CHoCH, I just got in. Didn't wait for price to mitigate again the newly formed supply. But in any other case, I think the highest probability um, trade would be to wait for the mitigation. So your trade would be something like that. Just put in this case of trades, once price sweep high and give us a CHoCH, and we have only one clear supply, right, and a very small stop loss if we enter. I just take the trade. I don't wait for an LC1 nor an LC2A. Here it didn't give us any entry. No LC1, no LC2A. Our LC1 would be that internal high right there, or that fractal high, sorry. That inside bar, but price didn't reach or didn't go all the way there, so that's totally fine. It was a market execution. No LC1, no LC2A. Totally fine once we had that internal sweep followed by a CHoCH. So in this scenario, the only case where we get an internal shift in structure, right? I mean, internal sweep of a high followed by a CHoCH. That's the only case where I'll be very happy to take a trade, just market execution from a supply without really waiting for a confirmation. Yeah, once we only have that, and once we have a clear target, which in this case we were in phase A, so our target was obviously the week low, the weekend 15 low. So yeah, we had the 123.3, very good trade. Passed my phase 2, become funded on that on one of the 200k challenges, which is very decent. And yeah, so that's our second trade of the week. Was on Monday. One loss, one win. That's totally fine. Then what happened is price created another internal leg to downside. Here we're in phase A2, obviously, because well, at that moment in time, M15 was still bearish. That was our high, and here is just another internal structure. So coming into the day, I don't trade phase A2. Even if I wanted to trade it, it's not high probability because well, we reached that H4 and daily demand. At any moment, we can start the pullback of the M15, or we can start even the reversal. So we have no inducement as well on the M15 supply, M15 internal supply. So it's not high probability at all. Nothing signal that price want to continue to the downside. And eventually, well, price just broke to the upside. So yeah, that moment in time, we didn't have any trade. Price opened on Tuesday. Yeah, we had that supply right there. But again, we're in phase A2. Although we had the whole range, I wasn't happy or wasn't okay to take any trade here. It just wasn't for me because well, at any moment we could just break that high and start the pullback, right? So so yeah, I wasn't really. I was waiting for a price to form a phase C basically and not trade the phase A2. And price gave us a phase C, so I was right there. All right, coming into Wednesday morning, we mitigated basically. I had my demand, my extreme demand, something like that, right? We mitigated that demand, had inducement, very strong demand. extreme of the internal, we had a big risk reward to the upside. So price mitigated that one, right? Give us a CHoCH right there, and then push to the upside. So once price mitigate an extreme demand, and I don't have any price can't reach lower, right? It doesn't have any more demands to the downside. So I was happy to just follow the fractal structure as long as we get some sort of sweep of liquidity into CHoCH, which we did. So once we reached that supply, right, we had a sweep of liquidity into a CHoCH, and we swept that supply basically. So we don't have any more supplies that could push price lower. We're in phase C. I'm following internal plus following fractal structure from H4 and daily demand. So this trade is a very, very, very high probability trade. Unfortunately, hit stop loss, that's totally fine. Give us an LC1 plus LC2A. So thing is, on this candle, the blue candle is not an inside bar, but on other brokers, this is an inside bar. So the fractal low would be that one. And yeah, I just took an entry from the fractal low basically, which got hit around there, and we had stop below the demand. If I didn't get into that trade, well, if I didn't get the LC1 from that trade, well, that's totally fine. We waited for an LC2A, so we got a CHoCH. That low is protected, but we broke it, so fake break, and we got tagged right there into the trade. Stop loss below the level. Unfortunately, we got stopped out. This was a very high probability trade in my opinion, but yeah, just probabilities. So once price broke to the downside and swept all these lows, I was like, okay, we could have just mitigate the weak because we still have the wick of the candle not mitigated, right? It's a pivot demand, so it's a fractal, sorry, demand. So I was happy with looking for trades from there. Price gave us an LC2A again from the extreme internal structure. Gave us an LC2A, and that was the entry. Unfortunately, I didn't take this one. Why? Well, because I'm restricted to 1% maximum risk per day, and that was I already lost 1% here, so I couldn't take any trade. And plus, we had the FOMC coming in a few hours, and so yeah, price just continued to the upside. If I wasn't on that trade, I'll probably close just before FOMC for like a 1 to 2 or 1 to 1.5, and not risk it with FOMC. Obviously, price continued in our favor, but with news, price could do both, right? It could just hit your stop loss. So I'm not mad about that trade, right? I'm not. This is high probability one. This was high probability one as well after we swept all the lows with an LC2A. Unfortunately, as I said, um, we just couldn't get an entry. That's totally fine, but this trade was very valid. So then price just pushed to the upside, gave us a boost, right? Coming to the next day, we had a new M15 range. So on the H4, we had an IBOS and was looking for price to start the phase A, pushing towards that swing high and break it potentially. Yeah, so we had that H4 demand, but I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew that price would not push all the way here. So coming into structure, price coming into the medium time frame, I had that as our strong low, and that was our weak high. Price started to push to the downside. We had an extreme demand there. We had the demand here as well, had the inducement. So yeah, price could just continue from here, but we basically just created some sort of because our internal structure is very, very far away. So that was our high, that was our low, and that was our high. So this low would be our internal structure basically. So because it's so far away, I had to reset my structure. And how I did it is I just took the newly formed range, right? So that was my internal high and that was my internal low. I was waiting to potentially see an IBOS and then continuation, but unfortunately it didn't happen. We also didn't mitigate any EQ, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check it. Yeah, we didn't mitigate EQ, but obviously this is the first boss, so we could momentum is so high that we don't have to mitigate EQ, right? But we didn't get any real confirmation entry right here. We got the CHoCH right there. Yeah, that was our M15 CHoCH, but again, yeah, that CHoCH doesn't mean anything to me because we could just respect that supply and push higher, create a new internal low, and then break it, and then get an IBOS. So yeah, price just mitigated that fractal low right there. Okay, and then it pushed higher, and we got an IBOS plus a boss. And yeah, do you get any entry from the fractal low just to double check, just to check if we got anything? Was it here? No, it was here. Yeah, we got an LC1 basically just right there. That was an LC1. So yeah, then what happened is price pushed higher. So our swing low was here, our swing high was there. We had the internal structure all the way. So I was expecting price to potentially reach the EQ of the whole M15 range. So that was our M15 low, M15 high. EQ was around there. So I was still expecting price to potentially reach that demand and then continue higher. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. So we got an IBOS right there. Price created some new internal structure, pushed to the upside, swept all liquidity, right, and then gave us another IBOS. So that was our internal high at that moment. That was our internal low. We had the supply that swept liquidity, but unfortunately, didn't have any inducement in front of it. So I kept in mind that at any point we could just sweep it, and that we had an unmitigated supply above, right? That we could just tap into and continue to the downside. So what happened, this price just swept high and closed below, giving us another LC1 as well. Sorry, respected an LC1 too, which was there. And yeah, basically here what I waited for is just to confirm that the M15 will close below that internal high. It did. It didn't give us any CHoCH, but because it's internal structure, I was happy with that. It gave us an LC1. I was expecting price to push to the downside, mitigated the previous unmitigated supply that had inducement in front of it. So I was very, very, very happy to just get into the trade. Market execution had enough risk reward till the EQ. Just took that trade after the second candle opened higher and pushed lower, broke the low, and yeah, then price just melted to the downside, and yeah, then we basically just mitigated EQ, had an IBOS, didn't pull all the way back there, that's totally fine, and we got a boss. So now we have a new form structure, which we have this as our new swing low, right? Strong swing low, and we don't have an M15 high yet, but price basically created internal structure. So same thing again, we could see some sort of pull of basically pullback and then continuation to the upside. Looking at the H4, we have a new internal range, that being our internal low, and we don't have an internal high yet, but waiting for price to potentially mitigate this internal low, internal demand, give us some sort of IBOS on the M15 and look for a price to continue higher. And yeah, so that's basically all our recap on GU. Had 2 wins, 2 losses. One could have been avoided, but eventually that's totally fine for me. You know, it was kind of a learning lesson. I took 2 trades the same way, that we swept an internal high and pushed to the downside. We got CHoCH. Difference is that we got CHoCH on that one, and I market executed directly once we got the CHoCH. Here we didn't get a CHoCH, but we got an LC1, right? And we mitigated a previous internal supply, so I was happy to just take that trade. Here I needed to wait for CHoCH because we didn't mitigate anything, right? So yeah, so 2 wins, 2 losses on GU, very good trades. EU didn't get any trade on. We were still consolidating in that range, right? I was waiting for price to potentially push higher because, well, I knew that after the daily CHoCH right there, we could see some sort of another CHoCH and price pushing higher to EQ and to supply because we're bearish overall. Same thing with H4, was expecting price to sweep highs, sweep low, sorry, and then give us a CHoCH and start continuing bullish, forming bullish structure, which we did. M15 coming into Monday. Yeah, coming into Monday, basically price was bearish, M15 was bearish, right? We mitigated the H4 supply and M15, the M15, what do you call it? M15 supply, yeah. Then we pushed higher, creating some internal structure, and after mitigating the H4 supply, we got an IBOS. So we're in phase A, very good trades, very good structure. I was looking for price to potentially reach higher and give us an entry from, well, I had this as our first supply because it had inducement in front of it, even though it's slightly mitigated. This, I mean, fractal high or fractal structure, fractal pullback, doesn't have any inducement, so I wasn't happy to take trade from there. Then what happened? Price just breached higher a bit into the range, the whole range, and pushed lower. So I didn't get any entry, didn't get any confirmation there or pullback for me to take a trade. Price then just pushed lower, create another internal range, pushed lower again, and then this happened after my trading hours, but then price just swept that internal high, used that as inducement, and yeah, continued lower. Created another internal structure, right? And another another swing structure. So coming into Tuesday, we already had that bust, so that was our internal high. Swing high. And yeah, was waiting to potentially get an IBOS to the upside to look for bullish trades and to play the phase C. That's exactly what happened here. We had an IBOS and price just pushed to the upside, didn't give us anything yet, and yeah, didn't give us any pullback. So coming into Wednesday, price just created some random fractal structure. Didn't mitigate anything deeper or lower or any demand that we had, so I didn't get any possible entries. We got a CHoCH, but it's insignificant, doesn't mean anything. We could just get CHoCH from everywhere, right? And respected that fractal supply, kept on pushing higher, gave us an CHoCH there, and yeah, and price just pushed higher following FOMC. So now we have BOSS, we have a new M15 range, that as our low, and that as our high. Coming to Thursday, we were right there. Was expecting potentially price to push to EQ or to that demand at least and see there a form of IBOS because our internal structure was bearish following that IBOS. Price give us another continuation to the downside, bearish structure, right? Creating new bearish. I don't know why I didn't put that as our bearish internal structure. So that was also a bearish leg to downside. And we got our IBOS right there. That was our IBOS. And yeah, we had our IBOS, and price just pushed to the upside. It didn't mitigate lower, didn't mitigate any demand. And yeah, we couldn't get anything here. Price then gave us a boss and created another internal structure and just continued bullish. So then coming into Friday, we had that as our swing structure and that as our weak swing high. Price pulled back, was waiting for price to potentially come into one of the supplies, right? But this is a bit weird to me because, well, that's our internal low and price just pushed in one push. Here, everything here is fractal, so I wasn't happy with trading that, especially as we don't have any CHoCH, right? It's just fractal pullback at this point. Not even internal pullback. It's just fractal pullback. So it doesn't make any sense for me to get involved into this trade. So I didn't even look at this whole structure, right? But then once price basically just swept that low, give us a CHoCH, then yeah, because the internal was far away, I could consider this as my internal structure to look for buys. But price mitigated deeper into demand area. Swept these lows, got big reaction, and then shifted bullish on the internal. And yeah, then price just continued bullish, giving us no pullback to the downside. to look for longs. And yeah, that's everything that happened with EU. Swept the lows there, gave us, now we have a new bullish range that be in our swing strong low. And yeah, at any moment we can see price now pulling back to one of the demands and then continuing higher. We mitigated that internal demand too, so yeah. What we could expect is potentially price forming a new internal demand, structure, and I'll just keep following that structure until it breaks. So yeah, let's wait on more confirmation. Once we get the IBOS, then we'll confirm that price want to pull back. We'll draw our Fibonacci and see if it pulls back at our EQ. If we can play that pullback, then sure. If we can, then we'll wait for in phase A after an IBOS. See if we have any demands that has inducement. If it's the extreme, look for an LC2